Well, hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Sydney. I'm 26 years old from British Columbia, Canada, with a slight obsession with Carhartt toques. I do have one for every day of the week, fun fact. Being said, this video is not about Carhartt toques, although I kind of wish it was. Carhartt, if you're watching this, sponsor me because I really love your toques and I just love Carhartt in general. That being said, I'm not a financial expert. I'm just a girl with a budget spreadsheet and have a mild obsession with trying to get my life together and be as organized as possible and learn as much as possible. So on this channel, I share my real numbers, the good, the chaotic, the why did I think that was a good idea moment, and all while I figure out my own debt, my investment strategy, and adulting in real life. So if you like transparency and learning about money in the simplest of terms, I definitely try my best to share what I'm learning in a very simple and approachable way for the average person and try to steer clear from the traditional finance bro energy, then this is your channel. Click subscribe, follow along. I'm going to be posting a lot more to come. As I said, maybe I didn't say this, but I'm fairly new here on YouTube. I just started 2 months ago, give or take, and I'm loving it so far. I am so passionate about learning about finances and sharing with you guys along the way what I'm learning. I think this is such an important topic, and I'm a huge advocate for let's learn everything about our finances now while we're young so that our future selves will thank us. That being said, let's dive into the video. All right, February was a very chaotic month. Typically, my January and February months are not this busy. Normally, they're kind of slow and they just drag on, but this January and February, they've just been flying by. There has been so many incredible things going on. This year has been absolutely wonderful so far. 2026, you've been a real treat, so I'm very grateful for that. But February, holy smokes, you were a busy one. Not only did I travel this month, I had cousins come from out of town that I haven't seen in a few years. I moved some money around with my accounts. I canceled accounts. I changed my debt strategy. I changed my investment strategy for right now. And no, I did not perfectly stick to my zero-based budget because it was such a crazy month. And I'm going to share exactly what happened, what went down in the spreadsheet. So without further ado, let's talk about my income. Okay, so first things first, let's dive into the income. As you can see on the top here, it shows that I had planned $10,000, $496.97. Now I'm going to clarify right off the bat that it's not my income that I brought in from my job. A couple of those were from savings accounts and a few other scenarios, which I'm going to walk you through, and it'll make so much more sense. But if we're actually just talking about my paychecks and what I actually brought in this month from work, I had planned $1,800 on 2 separate occasions for both 2 biweekly payments. However, if we look to the right here, what actually happened was my first paycheck ended up being $1,765.50, so $36.50 short. And then my second payment actually only came out to be $1,642.57. So all in all, I was around $200 short in terms of money I brought home from work. Moving on, you can see I actually had a work bonus of $224. Now, this was actually a reimbursement from some kilometers for work that I had to travel, and also this was a vacation payout. So not a lot, but still, that definitely made up the difference for what I had thought I was going to be bringing home for work. So that was really nice. Now, this is where it gets a little bit crazy, and that this is why it looks like I had brought in a lot more money than I did. So you'll see here I have my travel savings. So this was my travel sinking fund that I had saved $2,400. Now I'm marking it as income because I did withdraw it and I spent it. So I just want to recognize that because I did track all of my travel spending within here as well. So you will see I took out $2,400 and I put I put it under the actual category, and realizing that money has been accounted for. I did spend it, or maybe didn't spend it. We'll see. I don't know, but I do know, but I have put that as an income source there. So that is why that is a little bit higher. I also withdrew from my savings account $2,000, and Partly, a couple reasons why I did that. One, I put some of that money towards my line of credit, and then the rest of it went towards some unexpected spending from in my trip in Mexico and just some just some unexpected payments, which will make sense, and I'll explain a little bit more here in a little bit as well. And then lastly, I had canceled out some of my accounts. So some of you know I canceled my life insurance policy, and I also had my tax-free savings account under that same company. So what I ended up doing was actually canceling my TFSA through them, withdrawing that as cash. So that ended up being $238.13 as I'm moving some of my investments accounts. And I actually reallocated that money into a different investment account through my Wealthsimple. So I have marked that as cash and as income, and then I will show you where I put that this month as well. So that is why my income is showing a lot higher, and I didn't actually bring in $10,000. However, I was shifting some things around this month, so it looks to be that way. All right, and now let's talk about my essential expenses. So as you will see under the rent category, I planned for $960 for the month of February. However, because my payment dates aren't going to align with my first paycheck in March, I actually just took out my rent for March from my last February paycheck. So I'm just making sure that I track that in February, and then my first paycheck in March won't have to go towards my rent, and I can allocate a little bit more towards investments and towards other things and debt. And then my last payment in March, I will utilize that for my April rent payment moving forward, so that it's just a little bit more streamlined, and then that's only being taken out of my income once a month rather than twice like in this scenario. So moving forward, I have my gym membership, which comes out on a bi-weekly basis, being $26.24. As you can see, one is $0 because it has not come out yet. I'm filming this on February 24th, and there's still a few more days in the month. However, I go back to work in 2 days, and so I wanted to make sure that I film this video, and I don't see myself spending any more money. I'm at home for the rest of today. Tomorrow, I'm not going to spend any money aside from getting gas prior to traveling to work on Thursday. So gas should be my only expense, aside from any bills that are on here already that haven't been realized at the very moment. So that is my rent, my gym, and then moving on, we have my phone bill, which I planned for $110, and it ended up being about $110 and change. So I just put $111 towards my phone bill. Moving on, we have my car insurance, which I budgeted $138, and it came out to $136.87. Now, I should really change the planned amount because it's always $136.87. It doesn't ever change. However, for simplicity's sake, I just put it at $138, but I should probably put it at $136.87. Not that it makes a huge difference, but every penny counts. So anyways, moving on, we have my electricity and utilities, which I planned for $100, and I have not put anything towards electricity or utilities yet. I'm still waiting for my roommate to send me over my bill. So as of right now, we are going to just roll that over into March. And then we have service fees, which is just fees for different accounts in my bank account. So I budgeted $30, and I only spent $13.45, and I do want to look into negotiating with my bank to see if they'll waive fees for certain accounts. I'm not sure if that's a thing, but I'm going to try anyways. I've been a loyal customer to my bank for a long time now and have been really upping my credit score and putting myself in a better position by paying off my debt. So really trying to stay on top of all my finances. So I'm really hoping that they will waive those for me potentially. Again, it's only $13, but still, every penny counts. Moving forward, we have my interest category, and this is just in case I have any interest from debt. I have been in a situation in the past when I had more credit card debt where interest was kind of the thing that got me every month, and I think like it does for many people. So I have a category there. However, I didn't budget anything for it because I've been really on top of my debt and really trying to avoid any interest payment or avoid being in the overdraft as well. So that's at $0. I have not put anything towards it, thankfully. So I'm really grateful for that. Moving forward, we have my two variable essential expenses, which is my grocery and my fuel. For February, I budgeted $100, and I actually only spent $95.46 with a remaining balance of $4 left over, which is really good. Granted, I was at work and I traveled for a lot of it, so I really haven't been home. So aside from when I got home from my trip the other day, I spent $50 on groceries for this few days at home. I haven't really spent any money for groceries, which has been really nice. And then for fuel, I budgeted $150, and so far I spent $133 with $16 left over. Now tomorrow I'm going to have to get gas. I'll probably end up spending closer to $30 tomorrow, so that category will be overspent just ever so slightly. Okay, and now let's talk about my variable expenses. So this is the category where things hit the fan, things got a little crazy, but that's okay. We're going to make up for it in March. But as you can see, my dining out and a lot of the categories in the dining out, shopping, home, gifts, I didn't plan for anything. However, I overspent quite significantly, a lot more than I wanted to. However, like I said earlier, February, something was in the air. It just ended up being a really crazy month with traveling. And then I had some unexpected things come up that I just wasn't thinking about when I budgeted for this month. So for instance, dining out, I had some family, my little cousin and his girlfriend came to visit, and I haven't seen them in a couple of years. So I paid for our dinner, and it was something that was really important to me to do. It was so nice to see them. So that ended up being a portion of that dining out. And then I did some eating out in the in-between days, traveling or leading up to my trip, as I had bounced around and was going from place to place. So there was a lot going on. I should have thought that out a little bit more carefully, but that's real life and that's just the reality of it. I didn't think I was going to be eating out as much, but real life happens and sometimes those things come up. So I ended up spending $269 more than I had planned. And same with shopping. I had not thought it out, but I needed a dress for the wedding trip, and then I needed a couple other things that I just didn't plan for, so I ended up spending $356 there. So in March, I'm going to be making sure that I'm going to be doing a bit more of a low spend month, and I'm significantly reducing my dining out costs, however, being realistic and giving myself a small budget for dining out. And then shopping, I'm just not going to be doing any shopping. There's nothing that I really need or want right now, so I'm going to leave that at zero going into March and hopefully make up for that. And then moving forward, we have my home and gifts category where I didn't budget anything and I didn't spend anything. So that was nice. But then we go right back to overspending when we get to miscellaneous, where I had some other varying categories that didn't fall under dining out or shopping or anywhere else. So I put them under miscellaneous, and that ended up being $111. So again, not super stoked that I spent a significant amount more than I planned. But again, this is real life and I'm going to be as transparent as possible. And now that I have that awareness, I'm going to shift that focus into March. However, there's a lot of other really great things that did come from March in terms of my finances that I'm really proud of, which I will talk about here in a little bit. So those were like the main key points of overspending that I'm like not super stoked about. And then as we move forward, you'll see I have beauty appointments. I budgeted $100 to get my nails done. I ended up spending $115. This is a very expensive habit. I don't know how some people upkeep this personally. This is not something Sydney, Sid the kid, can upkeep by any means, but I did get it for my trip, and it was really nice to go out and had a bit of a social outing with some coworkers to get my nails done. So it was kind of a 2-in-1, prep for the trip, hang out with some coworkers, so it was really nice. However, it ended up being $15 more than I anticipated because Sid the kid broke her nail like a few days in. That's just my luck. This is why I can't have nice things or nice nails anyways. However, they lasted a lot longer than I thought. So we are still winning with the nails. So I did spend $115 there. Moving on, I do have a cash spending, a guilt-free category. Sometimes if I have a good month and I have some extra cash, I will give myself some guilt-free spending that I just take out from the ATM and I'm not tracking. However, this month, because I overspent and also just because of everything going on, I didn't allocate anything towards my guilt-free spending. And then moving on, you will see I have my Mexico spending. So this was a fund that I had been saving up for quite some time, and I took out that $2,400 and I put it towards my trip. And you will see that I planned for $2,400 and I spent $3,000, so $600 over. However, that's all money that I will be receiving back, as $300 of that was a deposit on one of the hotels, so I should be seeing that back in my bank account in a couple of days. And then the rest of that were charges that I helped my friends pay for in Mexico, so I will also be getting paid back for that. So Realistically, I did stick to my $2,400 budget for Mexico, which I'm really proud of. I will be posting a what I spent and budgeted video for Mexico and going into further detail about what things cost down there and kind of how much I allocated towards different categories. So stay tuned for that video. I'm very excited about that one. And I also share some really cool tools that I use to help me in my travels because I don't have credit cards, so I don't lean on credit cards when I'm traveling. And so I share some tips in that video as well. Moving on, need to catch my breath. We have subscriptions. So as you will see, I have iCloud, which I budgeted $14, and I ended up spending the $14.55. CapCut I do not use, so did not budget anything for. Canva, I paused that, so I didn't get charged anything this month. Leonardo AI, as you will see, I didn't plan anything because I had that paused, but then I unpaused it a couple days ago because I realized I really like the tool and I do use it quite frequently. So that ended up costing me $18.89. And then moving forward, we have Descript, which I planned for $34.11 and I ended up spending $49. So it ended up being $15 more. And that is for the video editing platform that I use for YouTube. After that, I have Netflix, which I did pause for this month, so I didn't get charged in February. And then I have my Stan store, which is where I share some affiliate links. I also have a survival to steady tracker that I created for you guys for free, so I link that in there as well. It's a very handy tool. And then I have my Dropbox, which is $17.91, which I did end up spending. So all in all, subscriptions are definitely an area I feel like I could cut back eventually, but for now, a lot of the subscriptions are just tools that I use for my YouTube, so I don't feel too bad about them. Okay, so next category we're going to discuss is my debt payoff contributions, and if there's any category that I'm most proud of this month, it is definitely my debt payoff, because although I definitely overspend in other categories, the debt payoff is one of my biggest priorities, and I definitely feel like I made some huge strides here. So as you can see from my line of credit, I plan to contribute $180. Now I ended up shifting this and I actually withdrew $1,000 from my savings account to put towards my line of credit. So all in all, I ended up contributing $1,100 towards my line of credit. Now at the beginning of the month, my line of credit balance was $3,500. And since contributing that $1,100, I'm now sitting at $2,500 left owing. So the great thing about this, and something that I'm really excited about, is this Friday I should be receiving an 8% bonus from work, which should hopefully be around $2,000, give or take, which means I'm going to be this close towards paying it off. And if there is still a little bit owing, I will most likely take a little bit more money and shift some of my other spending to completely pay off my line of credit, which is really, really exciting. So I'm hoping that very early beginning of March / end of February here, that the line of credit will be completely paid off, which is really exciting. Moving on, we have my car loan, and this is another area where I made some huge shifts. So I have my normal car payment, which comes out bi-weekly, of $243, so $486 per month. However, I am going to be allocating more money every month. And the reason for that was because if you've been following me, you know that I canceled my life insurance policy, which I was contributing $250 a month towards. However, since canceling that, I have now moved that $250 and automated it going straight to my car loan every month. On top of that, I also changed up one of my investment strategies, which was I had a tax-free savings account, a TFSA, with the same company I had my life insurance with, and I closed that account so that I could open up another TFSA within my Wealth Simple account and just consolidate my investments. So for now, I'm going to take a pause on the $300 I was automatically investing into that TFSA account, and I'm also contributing that for my car loan every month. So all in all, I will be paying $486 car payment, but also paying an additional $550 a month towards the principal of my car loan. So I'm hoping that my car will be fully paid off by the end of the year, roughly. Also, I should be having a tax refund coming out in March, and again, however much that is, I'm hoping it'll be around $1,000 or just under that, and all of that money is also going to be going straight to my car loan. So I'm very happy about this. making huge strides. And then once all of that is freed up and I no longer have debt to contribute towards, that is going to free up a lot more money for me to invest. Okay, and last but not least, let's talk about my savings and my investments. So as you will see, savings and investment wasn't my number one priority, as debt payoff was my number one priority, along with just enjoying my time as I was traveling. So I wasn't putting as much emphasis on my savings and investments. However, I do have some automated contributions that just automatically get put into some of these accounts that I don't even see or deal with. So I did still have some small contributions going. So for my emergency savings, I did not contribute anything towards that this month. However, again, I will be making some shifts, as once my debt is paid off, my emergency savings is my number one priority. So moving forward in March, I will still be allocating some money towards that in the future. For savings, I have an automatic contribution of $50 bi-weekly set up. So I should have said I had $100 planned, but in reality, I only put $50, but $100 actually went to my savings. So $50 more than I planned. Same thing with my travel and my rollover accounts. Is I didn't even plan anything for my rollover, but I did end up having $100 for each of those categories go towards there automatically without my doing, because I just already have that automatically set up, which is definitely really nice and alleviates me having to worry about doing anything manually. And if you're not automating things, I highly suggest you do it. It definitely makes a world of a difference. So as of right now, I did not put a ton towards savings, but I am very happy and content with what I did put towards savings, as this month was just a very chaotic month. Moving forward, I have my investments, which I have my employer contribution. Again, these just automatically get taken off my paycheck, so I didn't have to do anything here. So my 4%, $163.24 got taken right off my paycheck. Same with my employer contribution of 6%, which ended up being $245. That automatically got taken off my paycheck, so I didn't have to worry about doing anything. And then as for my FHSA, now on my income, you saw that I had taken out $2,300 from my TFSA from the other managed account that I had it in, and I'm consolidating that into my Wealth Simple. So I have taken that, and instead of contributing it back into a TFSA, I'm contributing that to my FHSA now for a couple different reasons. One being a tax strategy, is now I will be able to increase my tax refund, but also it is tax-free, very similar to a TFSA. So it has the benefits of both. So I only have 15 years to really utilize the FHSA and to contribute to. So that is my main priority, to try and at least attempt to max it out as best I can from now until the end of the 15 years. And whether I decide to use it for a house and take that money out tax-free and put that towards a house, great. And if not, it'll just roll over into my RRSP account. So definitely trying to prioritize my FHSA. So I have shifted that over to that account for now. And then my TFSA and RRSP, I have not contributed to this month. Again, my investment strategy will be to work on maxing out that FHSA account, and then once that's maxed out, moving on to the TFSA or RRSP. So that was my February spending for this month. So all in all, it wasn't a terrible month, but it wasn't the best month. Yes, I overspent in some categories, but there were some great wins in there as well, from paying off a lot more debt than I had planned, still managing to save a little bit of money and invest some money, all while traveling and having all of the chaotic things come up that weren't planned. Now, if we were to break that into a percent of income summary, this is what that might look like. So for essential expenses, I planned 15%, and it actually ended up being 23%. Non-essential expenses, I planned for 24% and actually spent 38%. For my savings, I planned just under 1% and actually saved about 3%. For investments, again, I didn't plan a lot. I planned 4.37% and I ended up investing 26% of my income. And then from debt payoff, I planned 8% and ended up putting 17% towards my debt. So all in all, when you add that up, I ended up overspending in total about 9 or 10%. So everything kind of balances itself out a bit. However, yes, I could have done better. I wish I was not overspending by that 10%. However, given that a lot of it went towards debt, savings, and investments, I'm really not that mad about it. It was overall a really great month. I went traveling and I didn't experience any anxiety, which was so nice. I came home to absolutely no credit card debt because I didn't lean on credit. So there was a lot of wins, a lot of changes within my banking and the structure of my debt payoff strategy and my investment strategy. So I'm going to have some grace. I'm going to go easy on myself. I feel pretty good. I made a lot of financial moves this month. And so March will be a really good reset for me to just get my feet back on the ground and not be as crazy. There's definitely not near as much planned for March as I did for both January and February. So that was my spending for February. Thank you so much for watching. I feel really good about it. Definitely room for improvement, but I appreciate you watching. I'd love to know what some of your money wins for February were, maybe some things that came up that you need to change and learn how to be better with some of your spending. I'd love to hear from you. But all in all, thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.